and welcome back to the Introverts Haven. My name is Megan and welcome back to my library. I read 7 books in the month of May. How did I do that? While working a full-time job and effectively a part-time job as well? I don't know. I actually genuinely don't know how I did this, and I did have to double check because I'm like, wait, was it really that many? Yeah, somehow I managed to read 7, and overall it was a really, really great month, and I read a lot of books that I really liked. There was really only one that I was super unimpressed with. So overall, a really, really great reading month, despite the fact it was a very, very busy month for me. So without further ado, let me tell you all about them. So the first book that I read was The House of My Mother by Shari Franke. She's the eldest daughter of the YouTube family. They were family vloggers known as 8 Passengers. I personally had never heard of them. I do remember this case when it blew up in the media back in 2023 and Ruby's mother was arrested for child abuse. And this family ended up getting very involved with a woman named Jodi Hildebrandt. And I guess she had a self-help, I don't know if it was a group or a program, self-help program called Connections, and it's very religiously based. It's just kind of her quest to come to freedom away from her family and away from the influence of her family. And it was really, really moving. We hear a lot about these types of channels ever since, I always think about like John and Kate +8 and how they appeared to be this beautiful family, but behind the scenes there was a lot going on, and this is kind of a similar thing. So there does seem to be a similar theme within these types of families. Again, I'm sure there are good ones, and I'm sure that not everybody is out to try to do harm to their kids, but it did shine a big light on the morality, and is it necessarily okay or moral, and can these people really consent to what they are being asked to do? I think it was really, really well done. It was super, super emotional and sad, and just seeing this girl really try to fight for love and acceptance from her own mom was really emotional, and really great to see Shari be able to take some of her story back. I mean, you see everything on a camera from her mother's perspective. I mean, to be fair, I haven't gone and looked for their channel. I don't even know if their channel is still up. But if you were to watch it and you knew anything about it, this might be a really, really good inside look at what was really happening behind closed doors. And I think it's human nature to want to see other families and how other families operate, that it's entertaining. But again, there is some morality issues there behind consent, and these kids didn't necessarily sign up to do this, and do they deserve to have the best moments of their life, the hardest moments of their life, maybe the awkward moments of their life filmed? And it sounds like there's a lot of like embarrassing moments that they don't necessarily want to be out there forever, but once things hit the internet, they're there. The next book that I read was To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. I don't know if this is the 5th Bridgerton book. It's one of the Bridgerton books. I gave this 4 stars, and it was really, really well done. I will say, out of all the Bridgerton books, this one was probably my least favorite. I didn't see the connection as well with Sir Philip and Eloise as I did the other characters, but overall it was still a really, really decent read. So this is following Eloise, and Eloise is a spinster. She is 28, 29 years old, somewhere in that area, but in their day and age, that was very late. I mean, you were expected to kind of get married by the time you're like 21, 22. So she's definitely resigned herself to a life of being a spinster. But she decides one day that she looks around and she sees that all of her friends and her family have settled down, and she's kind of interested in doing the same, but she wants it to be with the right person. Now, her cousin, I believe it was her cousin, Her husband ends up dying, and she really, really loves to write letters. And so she sends out a letter to him offering her condolences. They end up striking up a pen pal relationship. And she decides after a while of being pen pals that she is going to go to his house pretty much without even announcing that she's coming and surprise him and just see if there's chemistry or not. Now, Sir Philip, since his wife has died, he does have 2 children. They're very rambunctious, and he does not know how to deal with them. He doesn't know how to be a father, really. He feels very, very awkward, and he wants to be a good dad. He just doesn't really know how. And so when Eloise gets there, these kids are not a fan of her at all. They play some pretty cruel jokes on her, but they end up kind of hitting it off after a while, and this just follows their love story. Again, it's not the best Bridgerton book that I've read, but it was still really, really decent. Still 4 stars. I'd still recommend it. The next book I read was Crash Landing by Annie McQuaid. So this book, I'm not gonna lie, I had very, very, very high hopes for this book. It was not a bad book. Let me start there. I think I gave it 3 stars. But my expectations of what it was gonna be were kind of up here, and it fell a little bit flat for me. So it's okay. Were my expectations high because of reviews? No. My expectations were high simply because this is a stunning cover. And I know what they say, don't judge a book by its cover. But how can you not? Like, this was a stunning cover, and whoever was a part of this marketing team did a great job. However, the story itself, like I said, it did fall a little bit flat for me. This book is following Piper and Wyatt, and they used to date when they were in high school, and it was their first love was kind of each other. And they ended up breaking up, and unfortunately, Wyatt is related to Piper's best friend. So when her best friend goes to get married, these two end up having to go to the wedding on the same flight. They are booked to go on the same flight, but unfortunately their flight gets canceled. Now, Wyatt was in the military, so he knows how to fly planes, and he is able to get his hands on a small private plane. So he and Piper take off. She is not thrilled about going with him. However, she wants to get to her best friend's bachelorette party on time, and if she doesn't go with him, she's not going to make it on time, and her best friend's really counting on her. So she decides to go with him, but unfortunately, their plane goes down on a remote island in the Caribbean, and they are able to make contact, but it is going to be several days before they are going to be rescued. So it's just their story about kind of surviving together on the island. It's a second chance romance, and they just kind of end up having to lean on each other to make it through, and they also just kind of dig up their old feelings. It is dual timeline, so you did see the relationship from when they were high schoolers all the way up through now. And it wasn't a bad book. I just thought that it would be a little bit better than it was, and I thought the chemistry would be a little bit better. I wasn't super invested with the characters, and I wasn't super invested in their love story. It was okay. Next book that I read was Little Stranger by Leigh Rivers. I cannot emphasize enough how much I disliked this book. This also was hands down, I think, the most messed up book I have ever read in my entire life. And I have read many a dark romance, but this one takes the cake as being the most messed up book that I have ever read in my entire life. This book is following Olivia and Max. Now, they are siblings. Granted, they are both foster children, so they are not technically biologically related. Irregardless, it was weird to me. They were raised together from a very young age, so it was very sibling-esque. And they are always very, very close in a weird way. She's kind of a girly girl, and he is like a goth bad boy, if you will. And they end up falling in love with each other and being pretty spicy with each other. And all under their parents' roof and at family functions and whatnot. And I don't know, it was very incestuous, and the writing itself was okay, I guess, but I don't know, it was odd. There was violence in it, and like she was getting off to, I don't know. It was very, very weird and not really in an attractive way to me. And I don't shy away from dark romance. I definitely like Hunting and Haunting Adeline were one of my favorite books last year. So definitely the dark factor is in it. I think this one was just, I could not get past the fact that they were siblings and having a relationship. Like it didn't work for me. This just did not work for me. It was short. I did fly through it. I did finish it. But I rated it 2 stars, and I probably would not recommend this one. And certainly if you're gonna pick it up, read the trigger warnings. Next book that I read, I have been waiting for a long time for it to come out, and that is I Hope You Remember by Josie Balka. Now, historically, I don't and really haven't ever liked poetry. It's just never been my thing. But I came across Josie's videos on TikTok, and her poetry was so beautiful and so phenomenal and really, really spoke to me. And I absolutely loved this book. I tried not to fly through it because I feel like poetry is one of those things that you're supposed to like just kind of take in gradually and appreciate slowly. But it was really hard not to like rip through this. So, and I did tab this, and I am also not a tabber. I don't typically annotate my books or save things in my books, but this was so well done. I could not help myself. So I did want to read one of the poems from this book that I just absolutely adored. Sometimes I have to stop for a moment in disbelief to come to terms with the fact that you and I are not close friends anymore. We're actually not friends at all. It's funny how when you learn about love, you learn about family and you learn about partners, but you don't learn that much about how deeply you're capable of loving your friends, how a piece of you can die with a friendship. Just like the pieces of you can die with the kind of heartbreak that is normalized and talked about all the time, you and I used to talk every day. From morning to night, you and I shared an eerily similar personality. So many moments of please don't say anything until we stopped bothering to use that preface. You and I shared so much trust. We shared clothes, we shared beds, we shared hours and days and weeks and years. We shared lipstick in the bathroom. We shared a very mutual and deep-rooted care for each other. We shared silence so comfortably, but I guess that we still do that. And I hope that we will still share a similar belief that all of it was real. They say that all good things come to an end, and we were a good thing that came to an end. We're not close friends anymore. We're not friends at all. Just beautiful. Like so many poems, as you can see, as I kind of tabbed as I went through, were like that. And just so, so beautiful and so just speaks to your soul. So I did rate this 5 stars. I would 100% if she ever wrote another book, buy another one, and I can't recommend this one enough. The next book that I read was The Coworker by Freida McFadden. You know I had to get a Freida McFadden book in here somewhere. Come on. The woman is just a phenomenal storyteller, and I have to read every one of her books. So this book is following Dawn and Natalie. Natalie is the popular girl, the one who does phenomenal at work. She's meeting sale records like crazy. She has this wonderful relationship with one of her coworkers, and life is just going great for her. And then enter Dawn. Dawn is that annoying coworker. She's weird. She's got a lot going on. She is also very weirdly obsessed with turtles. And these two, they're not friends, but Natalie does notice one day when Dawn does not come into work. And Dawn is extremely punctual to a fault. And so it is not lost on her that this is odd. And hello. She has to join. So it is odd to her that Dawn did not show up, and she seems to be the only one in the office who's even remotely worried about the fact that Dawn did not show up to work. And she ends up trying to figure out what happened to Dawn. Is she alive? Is she dead? Did somebody off her? Why would somebody do that? I know she's annoying, but did she do something else? Did she see something she shouldn't have? And so she ends up trying to figure all of this out and more. And she does. And the twists and the turns in this, very Freida McFadden-esque. And this book was really, really good. I also rated this one 4 stars. Definitely recommend. It was great. And Freida McFadden is one of those authors you can just rip through her books very quickly. Last but not least, I read The Sirens by Emilia Hart. And I am so confused because this book has gotten very mixed reviews. I read through some of them on Goodreads after I got done with this because I genuinely do not understand, if you loved Wayward, how you didn't love this one also. I absolutely adored this book. I rated it 5 stars. It was great. So this book is dual timelined. Well, tri-timelined. Technically, there's 3 different times that this book takes place. Tri-timelined? Yeah. The first timeline is in 2019, and it is following a girl named Lucy. And Lucy wakes up one day with her hands around an ex-lover's throat, and she's horrified by what she does. She never remembered doing this to him. She had no intent, but there was some bad blood that happened prior to this whole thing happening, and their split was not necessarily great. And so nobody believes her when she says, no, I really did not intend to do this to him. I don't know how I ended up in his room, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. And so she decides that she is going to take off and she is going to go to see her sister. And her sister lives in this little seaside town. And while she is there, Lucy ends up finding out that this town is notorious for men going missing. And there is this local lore that these sirens are luring men out to their deaths. And so she starts exploring that a little bit while she's there, and she is waiting to see her sister who lives there. And her sister is nowhere to be found. The next timeline was her sister back in the 90s. Her sister is definitely one of those girls who doesn't always fit in with the crowd and ends up being taken advantage of as a result of that. And it just follows the relationship that she was in, and was it necessarily consensual or not? Again, Emilia Hart writes very feminist novels, but she does them in such a beautiful, relatable, and poetic way. So I absolutely loved it. And the last timeline takes place in the 1800s with Mary and Eliza. And these two end up being exiled, essentially, from their home in Ireland to go to this little seaside town where years later, both Lucy and her sister are. So flashback to the 1800s, and these two are exiled, and their ship ends up not making it to its destination. The ship goes down and there are no survivors. But did they necessarily all die? I thought that this was really, really beautiful. The stories do interweave. I know they all sound very, very different, and they are all kind of different, but they do interweave in a really great way. And Emilia Hart's really good at interweaving them, I think. I love the seaside vibes of this. This was super, super like beautiful. I love the messages behind the book. I loved it. I will say, I think I liked Wayward a little bit more, but this was still absolutely phenomenally done, in my opinion. There are a lot of people who don't necessarily share my opinion, but I thought it was great. And that is all of the books that I read in May. Again, I don't know how I read 7 books. I couldn't tell you. I would love to read 7 more this month, but I don't know if that's going to be possible with my current schedule. We'll see. But I hope all of you guys had a great reading month in May. Let me know down below, what books did you read? What did you love? What did you hate? Did you read any of these at any point? And if so, what were your thoughts on them? Let me know. I hope all of you are able to carve out some reading time today and have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.